I saw a gentleman last night. We were talking about redevelopment, and he said, well, redevelopment should go away. And I said, well, do you know what redevelopment pays for? Nope, but I want it to go away. So I said, well, do you know it paid for the Mission Inn? No, I didn't know that. Did you know it paid for? And I went down the list, and it was like, oh, well, they didn't tell us that. Mission Inn, Main Street, virtually every historic preservation effort in town. There's a couple of exceptions, but has been paid for by redevelopment. Santa Fe Coffee Depot, Loring Building, Spaghetti Factory, housing. We could go down the list. The Justice Center, that is a redevelopment project. We have a cooperative agreement with the county where we take a part of all the redevelopment money from downtown and we put it in a pot. And then we jointly agree on the sorts of things that should be built with that money. And the Justice Center, parking structures, the county CAC, a lot of different things that have happened downtown have been joint projects with the county and the city. I love this one. This was a wonderful event. You hear about corporate welfare. Well, here's corporate welfare down in Riverside. We acquired the redevelopment agency, the old municipal court building, which had been abandoned for years and years. Many of you probably actually practiced a little law in there. Maybe even Howard stepped in there at one time. And we demolished that and did a small environmental cleanup and then sold it at market value to the developer, who then spent $75 million building that project. So the agency's total investment was $200,000. Now, what I didn't put on here is the city actually made a little bit on this too. We put about $10 million in our pocket on this deal. So for a $200,000 investment by the agency, a 250,000 square foot office building was built downtown, and the city put a bunch of money in its pocket. I like that kind of redevelopment. Here's another one that I like too, because you always hear redevelopment, it hurts counties and schools. Well, if you read Rick Miller's blog, you see that the schools aren't really against redevelopment. In fact, if redevelopment goes away, your schools will get less money, a lot less. They're not telling you that. In addition, they won't get many of the projects that we're going to show you here that we've helped build for the schools. So they'll have less money in their pocket and less facilities. Here's a great one, though. This is why redevelopment works. You remember the Brown Automotive down here? Sat there for what, 30, 40 years? Abandoned, homeless, crime, toxic contamination. We acquired that, demoed the building, cleaned up the toxic contamination, and then sold it at market value. We lost about $1 million on that deal. The private investment there that's currently occurring is about $37 million. And so what happens to the taxes? Well, before redevelopment, the schools got $1,450 a year, and the county $926. After redevelopment, the schools will get almost $200,000, and the county $122,000. This is part of the reason that the counties and schools aren't really jumping on board with the governor's proposal. They know there's not $1.7 billion to take anyway, we know that, but they also know that in the end, they will lose money on this deal. Again, other private investment, again, a Hyatt Place Hotel and a big mixed-use project. The California Tower, I like this one. The governor and the state hate redevelopment unless they're asking the city to spend some of it for them to build a nice office building for the state. There you go. Marriott Hotel. Another redevelopment project. We'd acquired the land and put it together and put some infrastructure in and then sold the land to the Marriott. Mission Square, redevelopment project. I like this one. Another outfit that hates redevelopment. So they end it in our time, except when we're taking a little bit. Then don't end it until we get ours. So yes, the Press Enterprise expansion is also a huge redevelopment project. We acquired property. We moved historic structures. We put in a new sewer line for them so they could do their thing. But they seem to have forgotten that on their editorializing. Riverside Community Hospital. Yes, we helped them in the past, and I hope we can help them in the future because their plans for expansion here and improvement are wonderful. And they've got issues there that only our agency can help them resolve. You know, issues of infrastructure, issues of parking. And we want to be there for them because we want that $300 or $400 million in new hospital expansion in our downtown. We certainly don't want it out at March. Sorry, General, had to throw that in. So what kind of jobs and private investment are we talking about here? Just based on the construction that the agency does alone, about 1,500 construction jobs, about 650 new permanent jobs every year. And then, this is very interesting, within our project areas, which is, I think, represents maybe about 25% of the city geographical territory, 84,939 jobs. Lots of jobs, with a payroll of $4 billion. And how many jobs per firm? We're not helping Walmart. We're not helping Costco. We're helping small business, medium business. Average jobs per firm in our project areas is about 20. Do a lot of infrastructure projects. You see all these grade separations going on. They're wonderful projects. The Redevelopment Agency has a small hand in all of these because there really isn't a pot of money to give us $50 million for the Magnolia grade separation. You get 5 here and 10 there, and maybe Ken can give us a little bit, and then the railroads, they contribute about $2 million. And so after you get all this together, usually short about $5 or $10 million, and the Redevelopment Agency fills that gap. And so all of these grade separations have been done with a piece of redevelopment. Same thing with a lot of these widening projects and beautifications. People see when we're done a nice median and some landscaping. What they don't realize is underneath there, 100-year-old sewer and water lines have been replaced. A lot of flood control infrastructure has been put in place. So it's not, yes, it's pretty when we're done, but we did some stuff that ain't so pretty underneath the ground. And so that's important too. The Hughes Alley and Tyler improvements, North Main Street. I love this one. I was telling the chamber board, you know, it used to be, if anybody drive North Main every day? A lot of people go that way, but it used to be a lot nicer when you were in Colton. You're driving through Colton towards Riverside. As soon as you hit the county line in Riverside, the road, you know, potholes, and now we can say with certainty, Riverside is better than Colton. When you leave Colton, you're stepping up. Market Street improvements, I got to tell this story. I hope Dwayne's and Ted's not around. In the old days, when somebody would call Ted and say, how do we get to the Mission Inn from Los Angeles, the directions were a little convoluted. Yeah, take 60 to the 91 and head west to 14th, and get off there and make a right, and then maybe go up to Orange Street and make a right, and when you get to Mission Inn, make a left, and you're there. We don't do that anymore. Now we just get off at Market Street and go right to the Mission Inn. It's so nice. What a wonderful entry to our downtown. I think it has changed the dynamics completely. This is a redevelopment project. A lot of housing, Victoria Manor, senior apartments. I drive by this every day on my way to work. This is a great one. Many of you maybe remember the turquoise and topaz and turquoise, which are now called the Mission Point apartments. Really one of the worst, hundreds and hundreds of calls for service every year from the police department. You did get a refrigerator with every unit. That was a nice feature. That program's over now, but you can see the apartments are a little nicer. Senior apartments, we've done a lot of these. Beautiful projects, very low rents for very low income seniors. It's some of the best work I think we've done. This is another one. This is over in Ward 5, the Autumn Ridge apartments over on formerly known as the Indiana apartments, which is really one of the worst in town as well. And if you go by there, you'll see a dramatic improvement